Joining me now is Kendal Unruh, a high school government teacher, Republican delegate from Colorado, and member of the Rules Committee, very importantly, who supported Ted Cruz in the primary and is coordinating that Stop Trump effort. All right, Kendal, let's talk through your plan. In order for it to work, we spoke with one of our favorite experts here at NBC to sort of explain how it worked. You need to get a majority of the 112-member Rules Committee to go along with your conscience clause that would allow someone to say, I can't in good conscience or religious reasons vote for Donald Trump. Do you have the votes?
Not only religious, but also personal. And I am working daily on getting the votes, and I have a very good group of Rules Committee members. In fact, 2 called me right before this, and they have signed on. But more importantly, even if it doesn't get the majority vote to pass out of Rules Committee, I can also file a minority report with a lower threshold of 25%. But let me be very crystal clear, and I'm going to address what Donald Trump is saying, that it's illegal. It's actually illegal to bind a delegate. And there have been 2 Supreme Court cases, and there have been 200 historical precedents that have made that case. And out of 136-year history in the Republican Party, there have actually only been 1 convention in 1976 between Ford and Reagan where the delegates were truly bound. So for him to say it's illegal, technically it's unconstitutional to bind. And the fact that the Supreme Court cases actually have ruled the fact that the state cannot interfere in a private organization and the fact of how they conduct their business. Could you imagine bringing this down to a local level if the state was to be able to dictate, say, how a homeowners board voted or how a board to a soccer league voted? They just simply can't interfere. So he is 100% wrong on that. But the rule that I'm going to be sponsoring is not giving the binding to the delegates. I'm sponsoring this for a very specific purpose. The delegates already have the constitutional right to be unbound. I am drafting the rules, sponsoring the conscience clause that where they can opt out of their own free will and their free choice for either a religious or personal reason, because there are rule followers in the Republican Party. This is going after the activists that when they are being pressured by their delegation chair or their state chairman or an elected official, fill in the blank, it's giving them the tool, the empowerment. I call it the permission slip from mom at home, that they can then literally tangibly hold it and say, honestly, I can't unbind because here is an RNC rule saying that I can.
Right. So
and that's like giving them, in essence, the kryptonite that they need.
Spoken like a true public school teacher, that they need a permission slip. But I want to go back and walk you back just for 1 second, because my understanding of it is when you become a delegate to either of the conventions, you actually sign an agreement to be bound by whoever wins that vote in your state. Are you saying that there is no such agreement that delegates actually sign when they become delegates to the convention?
Well, we all signed pledges. I signed a pledge to vote for Ted Cruz, and all of our delegation actually voted for Ted Cruz. And in spite of the false narrative that Donald Trump wove that we weren't dutifully elected, we actually were dutifully elected. I actually had to convince thousands of voters to vote for me, and I had to go through not 1, not 2, but 5 elections to get where I'm at. So the point is, I'm actually accountable to my constituents and those who sent me. If I choose to not honor that pledge, which I will be for Ted Cruz, but if I choose to not honor it for any reason and I vote a vote of conscience, I'm accountable to them and them only. I'm not accountable to the party. I'm not accountable to my delegation chair. They are the ones that entrusted me with their vote. So that is a discussion that actually a delegate needs to take into consideration if they choose to unbind. And that is, how are the people at home that sent me here going to respond? But I can tell you, I hear daily from my constituents who voted to send me here to keep going down the path that I am going down. So I actually have an honor and an obligation to carry the water for them with the vote that they entrusted in me.
Except that, Kendal, so for you, in your case, you were for Ted Cruz, and I imagine that the constituents you talked to, the people you know, were for Ted Cruz. But if delegates are from a state that voted for Donald Trump, how would they justify then saying that their personal religious or personal convictions are leading them to go against the voters of their state? How would somebody be able to justify that?
That's actually a great question. And here comes the school teacher part, because I'm sorry that for 40 years that we've had curriculum that have taught that we are a democracy. We're actually not a democracy. And there's never just a one man, one vote. In fact, actually, that's a good thing that mob rule, 50+1, can't dictate an outcome, because our founding fathers were very clear that there are to be checks and balances in this constitutional republic that they started. And the system that's been implemented is a direct reflection of that you are entrusting a delegate. We're not a number. We're not a robot. We are someone who literally has that entrustment with us to cast a vote how we see fit, reflective of the will of the people. But let's just say something did come out that a candidate had done some criminal activity or something that was just morally reprehensible.
Right.
The fact that a delegate is carrying a vote, they are entrusted with a person trusting them to use their wisdom and to apply it in a circumstance to where it's truly unpalatable to cast that vote. And that is part of what this constitutional republic is all about.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to ask you really quickly. We are out of time, but very quickly, a quick compound question, if you could ask it very briefly. Number one, we've heard that Reince Priebus is reaching out to some delegates to sort of poll them and see how many are a part of this. And so have you heard from Reince Priebus, and has there been any backlash to what you're trying to do, or do you worry about backlash?
Oh, sure, there's always going to be backlash. Anytime you go against the party and you stand up for what's right in principle, and this is truly trying to save the party. We love our party. We've worked extraordinarily hard our entire adult lives to create a philosophical, very good conservative party, and we just simply don't want Donald Trump as the face of that party.
And have you heard from Reince Priebus?
I have not, but I have heard from other elected officials. But that just makes me work harder and makes all the rest of us work harder. Because we know that we are right in what we're doing.
All right, Kendal Unruh, thank you very much. We appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you for the time.